question that the state has failed these children time and again. Take the case of Anna from Bradford, vulnerable and in residential care,
who have sexually tortured over many years thousands of young white girls.
Over 1,400 children in Rotherham alone. Thousands more across Bradford, Telford, Oxford, and dozens of other towns. Girls as young as 11 systematically abused by rape gangs, while police, social workers, and local officials either looked away or actively covered it up.
By Oldham Council. And yet not one person, not one, has been convicted for covering up these institutionalised rapes.
These aren't just statistics. They represent real children, failed by the very institutions meant to protect them. Conservative MP Katie Lamb has just delivered a blistering address to Parliament, demanding to know why, after all these years, no officials have been held accountable, and why the Labour government is now attempting to water down investigations with localised inquiries lacking independent oversight.
The government has already rejected calls for a national inquiry and had said that they were going to do 5 local inquiries. Now that has a load of problems in and of itself.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favour. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now back to the video. What if I told you that some of the most powerful institutions in Britain have been complicit in one of the worst child abuse scandals in our history? The parliamentary address delivered by Katie Lamb MP has blown the lid off a pattern of institutional failure that extends far beyond isolated incidents. Her scathing speech in the House of Commons revealed how government agencies, law enforcement, and social services worked in concert not to protect vulnerable children, but to shield their abusers from justice.
Ministers refused to establish a dedicated unit in the National Crime Agency to investigate councillors and officials accused of collusion and corruption.
The scale of this scandal is almost incomprehensible. We're talking about thousands of young girls victimised across dozens of British towns and cities. Places like Rotherham, Telford, Oxford, Rochdale, and Bradford. Communities where children were systematically abused while those paid to protect them looked the other way. And what's truly staggering is the near-complete absence of accountability for the officials who enabled these crimes through their inaction or active suppression of evidence.
Over the cover-up, collusion and lack of action concerning the rape gangs.
Then the MP was about children actually being violently raped and abused by grooming gangs when no one was willing to prosecute them. But
Lamb's testimony brought to light disturbing examples of institutional betrayal. Social workers who dismissed victims as making lifestyle choices when they reported being raped. Police officers who labelled 12-year-old victims as prostitutes in official reports. Local councillors who were more concerned about community cohesion than stopping the rape of children. These weren't random failures. They represent a coordinated system of willful blindness that persisted for decades. Consider the case of Anna from Bradford, highlighted by Lamb in her address. This young girl wasn't just failed by the system, she was actively betrayed by it.
Who have sexually tortured over many years thousands of young white girls.
Her assigned social worker, someone specifically tasked with ensuring her safety, was directly complicit in her abuse, actually facilitating meetings with the men who exploited her. When Anna attempted to report this unimaginable betrayal, she was threatened with being sectioned under the Mental Health Act, a horrifying example of how victims were silenced by the very institutions supposed to help them.
No question that the state has failed these children time and again. Take the case of Anna from Bradford, vulnerable and in residential care.
The current Labour government's approach to addressing these historical failures raises serious questions about their commitment to justice. Rather than launching a comprehensive national inquiry with the power to connect the dots between these cases, they've opted for fragmented local investigations. This piecemeal approach effectively prevents any examination of the nationwide pattern and ensures that those responsible at higher levels remain untouchable. It's a strategy that prioritizes damage control over accountability. Perhaps most troubling is how authorities have repeatedly sidestepped the uncomfortable dimensions of these crimes. Court evidence has consistently shown that the vast majority of perpetrators in these grooming gang cases came from specific ethnic and religious backgrounds, primarily Pakistani Muslim men targeting white British girls.
That there are gangs of men, predominantly Asian, Muslim, either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage.
About, Mr. Speaker, are predominantly white. The men who preyed on them were predominantly Muslim, generally either from Pakistan or of Pakistani heritage.
Yet officials have gone to extraordinary lengths to avoid acknowledging this pattern. As Lamb pointed out, this refusal to confront reality has directly hindered proper investigation and prevention efforts. The institutional protection afforded to these criminal networks became so blatant that it couldn't escape judicial notice. In a case from Kirklees, a judge explicitly questioned how these offenders had enjoyed what amounted to immunity from prosecution for so long, despite their crimes being well known to authorities. This wasn't just negligence, it was something far more systematic and deliberate. So who's actually protecting these criminals? The evidence points to a network of officials across multiple institutions who prioritized political concerns over child safety. Police forces worried about being labeled racist. Council members concerned about losing ethnic minority votes.
Looking at everything that's happened all across Britain, how can we understand why this happened, whether it's still happening?
Social services departments hobbled by misguided cultural sensitivity training. Media outlets reluctant to report on the pattern for fear of stoking tensions. This wasn't just individual failure, it was institutional capture on a massive scale. The victims of these crimes have been failed twice. First, by the perpetrators who abused them. Second, by the very institutions statutorily obligated to protect them. Young girls from predominantly working-class backgrounds were effectively deemed expendable, their suffering considered an acceptable price to pay for maintaining a politically convenient narrative about multiculturalism and community relations. Documents obtained through Freedom of Information requests have revealed that in multiple towns, police and council officials were explicit in their internal communications about suppressing information related to these cases, specifically because of the ethnicity of the perpetrators. In one particularly shocking example, a police officer told a victim's father that the town would be at risk of riots if the public knew that Pakistani men were systematically raping white girls. The harrowing details shared by MP Katie Lamb must not be ignored. A 13-year-old girl with a red ball forced into her mouth while being beaten with a baseball bat.
It is where this has been happening. It is Labour councils with a large local Pakistani Muslim population where this has been happening.
This isn't just a collection of isolated failures. It's the complete collapse of every system designed to protect our children. Justice demands more than hollow words. A full national inquiry with real teeth, one that can compel witnesses, access all documents, and recommend criminal charges against complicit officials, is the bare minimum these survivors deserve. Those who covered up these atrocities walk free while victims continue suffering. Will we let another government prioritize political damage control over justice? The choice is yours.